gotta go down to Avenue A and 6th Street. It's supposed to rain tonight too, and it's kind of cold. Well, anyway, I got my waterproof boots on, waterproof pants, so I'm pretty good, pretty covered. Yeah, I'm not a fit through here. But anyway, it was I was gonna do a review on the XR. This is my only bike now. Fucking taxi. They'll fucking block you. They'll do everything they can to block you. They have no intention of letting you through. You can see how that taxi was just inching over on me because he just doesn't want to let me go by. They have like a disease like that. So yeah, I was gonna do like a second review on the XR. Actually, I'm using this as my primary bike now. I always had two bikes, like had the KLR and the XR, and I have a great fondness for the KLR because I had a KLR when I was living in California, in LA County. I was living in Calabasas before that place became fucking blown up. You know, this is way before. The only people that were there were the Kardashians, but they weren't even that big yet, you know, back then. And there was a couple of people, you know, that lived there, some famous people, but it wasn't really huge yet, you know. And that was back in 2006 that I was living there. I just happened to end up there, but you know, I was living in an apartment, and then I ended up getting a small house. But Calabasas was just starting to become blown up at that point. Like, it was getting so wealthy that, you know, I'd be there like, with my bike just running around and doing service calls and stuff, and people would be like, how can you afford Calabasas, you know? Are you wealthy? Are you famous? Or what, you know, are you some kind of blogger, you know? But I wasn't, you know, so, and that area was out of control expensive. But anyway, getting back to my point, I have a fondness for KLRs because I had a KLR back then, and I used it to get around LA County and LA and all that stuff. It was my primary bike. My KLR, that was my primary bike. You know, I used it to get around, and it was quite good. It was a Gen 1 though. It was a little bit, I mean, now the Gen 1 is ugly looking, you know, compared to the Gen 2. I think the Gen 2 is a much better looking bike. Yeah, the Gen 2 is definitely a better looking bike, in my opinion. And the Gen 3 looks real cool, but it gained some weight. But something that happened to me here, you know, maybe it's the fact that I'm getting older, but I found the KLR to be very heavy. And you know, before when I was living in Cali, most of my work was going on the freeway, getting on the freeway, going to downtown LA. A lot of splitting, but very safe splitting on the freeway, on the 101 the 405, the 110 going into downtown. That was the extent of my stuff. I mean, once in a while, a long trip to San Bernardino County, Tustin, or something like that, you know. But that was about it. That was the extent of my trips, you know. And then suddenly, you know, the 2008 recession hit, and I just got totally fucked. I mean, because, you know, I'm a freelance worker, so I make my money from when the economy is good, not when the economy's bad. When the economy's bad, I suffer. And, you know, I think I definitely bit off way more than I could chew. You know, the house, the taxes, it was just way too much. So, you know, I put the house up for sale, and I'm originally from New York, so I moved back east again. And, you know, I was back in the shit here, and I was a little depressed, you know, like, I got through it, but the first year of living back in New York was downright fucked up. I mean, because when you come from LA County, and you know, you come here, this place looks roached. I mean, and it just brings you down. But now I'm fine in New York. I don't have any issue, and I don't want to be back in LA unless I can afford that place, or maybe like you know, Long Beach or something like that. That seems like a little bit more of an affordable place, a little bit more down to earth, I think, anyway. But staying in LA County, fucking taxi. You see how he's honking at me and moving over? He don't want me to get by, but then there's a car in front of me and he can't get by anyway. So it's just a total New York attitude, because in LA, that's something that people don't do. Like, people, when they see you coming along, splitting along, they'll move and give you way because they're in a car, they can't get through. Their mindset is, okay, well, I'll let this guy on a bike go through. Not everybody. I mean, but you know, actually the interesting thing is people who transplant to LA from New York, they fucking hate that shit on the freeway with letting people through. I remember I was working in one modeling agency in West Hollywood, and they had an office in New York too, and the girl was from New York, and she knew me, and she was like, she saw me on the bike, and she was like, oh, you're one of those fuckers. And I was like, damn, you're angry. And then she was like, I've actually, she goes, I actually almost killed people because I thought they were, you know, she didn't know, before she knew there was a law. She goes, before I knew that was a law to allow people through, she goes, I almost killed a couple of dudes on the 101. I was like, damn, man, you're fucking angry. But that's a typical New York attitude, you know. Some chick in a car would just fucking take you out. She'd have no problem with it, you know. That's your fucking fault, not mine. They'll fucking hit you. They don't care. If I can't get through, you can't get through. That's the attitude here. But anyway, I don't want to get all angry about New York shit. But anyway, it was very depressing coming back here. LA is a tough town to do the kind of work I do. If you're going to be a freelance worker there, and you kind of just come in and do your thing, running around LA like a rat, you might make some money, but you're not going to do real well. If you can establish yourself there, though, and make a lot of contacts and get in with some really big people. Like, I met a guy one time that all he did was gates, electronic gates for, you know, expensive houses in Malibu. That's all he did. I mean, and he was well known. You know, he worked for Brian Grazer and various people. He worked for all the bigwigs, you know, producers and everything. And it was interesting to see that, because with the contacts he had a good little business going. But man, it takes a while to get that shit going on. I mean, it took me years here, you know, and starting over in LA when you're in your 40s, you know, or late 30s, 40s, it's almost like difficult. I mean, you could do it, but you got to be like 100% committed to it. You can't even have any relaxation at all. It's gonna have to be your mindset 24/7 until you start making it. And before that happens, nothing good will happen. You know, you're not gonna be making much money. You're not gonna be doing very well. And you know, before that happens. But you know, getting back to my, I'm like talking so much and I'm forgetting my main point. My main point, actually, I'm talking about LA, New York, and all the dynamics, and it's fun to talk about because it's what I went through. But the serious thing is, you know, the serious thing is, I rode a Gen 1 KLR and I liked it there. I mean, it was pretty good. You know, you get on the freeway, the bike had enough weight to it that you didn't get blown around. Because, you know, like a bike like this might seem a little light for the freeway there. And actually, it wouldn't seem, it is a little bit light. And you feel like you were out there in the wind, you know? So yeah, basically, the Gen 1 was nice in LA. It was a good bike for running around LA. And if I had a Gen 2, I probably would have loved it. But as soon as I got here to New York and got a little older, a little bit more close to that middle age, I found the KLR to be intimidating. And it's probably, you know, when I say that though to younger guys, they just fucking laugh at me. They're like, "What the fuck are you talking about, man? A KLR is only 440 pounds." But I found it to be intimidating, like in this tight city stuff, because before I moved to LA, I was living in Edgewater, New Jersey, and I did a lot of that bridge traffic, going over the bridge, a lot of New Jersey highway stuff, which you'd want to be on a bigger bike. Now that when I moved back to New York, I moved straight to New York, not New Jersey. So all my stuff is just running around the city like a rat, you know. And I know for a fact you would not want to be running around this place on a KLR all the time. And I'm not the only one to say that, because my neighbor, you know, watched my KLR for me when I went back to Philippines to visit, and he like wiped out on the thing, and he was just like, "Dude, that bike is fucking heavy, man." He said he couldn't pick it up because, you know, if you approach the KLR the wrong way when it drops and you push the bike instead of lift it, or the front wheel is not turned in the right direction and your bike slides on you, you use up all your energy. And you'll expel all the energy you have trying to lift that bike, and you'll be exhausted. And that's what happened to him. And a couple of firemen jumped out in the Bronx to help him. He works for the courts, and he was just near the courts, and it just happened to be some firemen that ran over. They saw him go wipe out, and they helped him pick the bike up. But they were even like, "Damn, this fucking bike's heavy." And I remember when I had a little tip over in Queens one time, when they were resurfacing the street, I was squeaking between a bus and a that lady looks like a lizard. I was squeaking between a bus and a car and a van, and there was a huge, they were resurfacing the street up in Flushing, and there was a huge hole, and I just totally fucking wailed into that hole, and the bike went down on me. It was so deep that if I tried to power through it, it would have caused rim damage, and so I just gave up and let the bike go, and the bike fell against a bus. But anyway, the bus driver came out to help me, and the guy in the van, there was no damage to anything, and you know, they both helped, and they were trying to pick the bike up, and they were like, "Holy shit, this bike's heavy." Because I think when you look at the KLR, you think, oh wow, this is just like a dirt bike. Because I've had people say that don't know the KLR. They're like, oh wow, it's a cool dirt bike, you know. They're like, dude, this is not a dirt bike, man. Because if you know the KLR, you know it's not a dirt bike. It's absolutely not a dirt bike. In no way, shape, or form could you consider it to be a dirt bike. There are some people who are pretty powerful and can handle that bike off-road, but I'd be the first to admit at my age I wouldn't be able to do it. I mean, you got to be a power lifter to handle that bike off-road. Yeah, it's supposed to rain tonight. It sucks. I got one more stop. So yeah, the KLR is heavy, man, and I'm not the only one to say that. But you know, in your 30s, KLR's all right. In your 20s, KLR's no problem at all. But you got to be careful that bike don't bite you. You know, like when it does bounce around or go down or something. If it flies into you, it's gonna hurt you, whether you're 20 or 30, whatever. You know, no matter what age you are, if a KLR bites into you, you're going to be in trouble. You know, it's gonna cause you a problem if it hits into you. But anyway, like I was saying, there must have been an accident here. You know, I shouldn't even come through here because this is where I hit the cyclist. And this place is bad luck, man. It's just too much shit going on for you to... It's like mental overload. You gotta be real careful around here. Johnny Air. I'm not dropping anything to Johnny Air today. I wish I was. Well, anyway, I found the KLR to be intimidating. Like sometimes when you would lean a little bit too far, I'd feel that weight coming on and it would just scare the shit out of me. And for the most part, I just powered through it with that bike. But, you know, I was up in Harlem, there's a dirt lot, and it was pouring rain. And I went to go turn around, and the bike fell over in a dirt, like a muddy dirt lot. And I mean, it was just a joke, man. I was slipping and sliding trying to pick that bike up. It was completely fucked up. And I said to myself when I got home, I said, you know, I gotta find a lighter bike or find a way to use the XR all year round. And at that time was when I put this windscreen on to try to use it. But in this environment, the XR is way more controllable. You know, the braking is better. The tight maneuvering in traffic is all much, much better on this bike. And, you know, that's confirmed. The only problem with the XR, and there's only one, the fuel capacity sucks. But I was talking to a commenter, Kamikaze Joe. He does like a lot of the electric unicycle EUC stuff and videos, and he's really into that. And he said, dude, you should just put the tank on because you don't need to fill the tank up. Like you can ride. And it was such a brilliant idea, and I didn't, to be honest, it just went right over my head when I thought about it, because the tank itself weighs very little. You know, an A-Cerberus 5.8 gallon on this bike is plastic tank. It's molded. It's strong. It doesn't weigh much. And he was just like, dude, just put the tank on, you know, and then don't fill it up. And it was such a brilliant idea. And I was like, you know, you're so right. Why bother with fucking around? You could just put the tank on and don't fill it up. And that's what I'm gonna do. That will be the last piece to this bike, is to put the A-Cerberus tank on there. That's gonna be the last piece of the puzzle. and that will take care of everything for me, you know, to be able to ride this bike. You know, I got the heated grips, windscreen, foot pegs, and everything is decent on this bike. It's good to go. I mean, I get the hand guards. This XR is set up fine for the city. It's perfect for the city. I mean, these hand guards have saved my hands numerous times, you know, from guys like that, taxis like that fucking cut into you. Sorry to say it, man. I don't mean to judge anybody, but anyway, that's the gist of it. In a crowded, congested city, this is a better bike. It fits in tighter spaces. It's easier to park it. The KLR is big, and you know, and when you get home at night, you can't just ditch your bike anywhere on the block. The bike has to be in front of my place, because that's where I have a camera. I have two cameras, a blink camera and a regular security camera. Both of them are recording at all times, but the blink camera sends the alerts to your phone, which I was talking about in one of my videos. If you do happen to live in an apartment building like this and you have a bike here, if you live in the front of the building and you have Wi-Fi signal, you're set, man. You can just put your sync module by the window, and you can broadcast to a blink camera. Like, for example, if I was living in that apartment, I would put a blink camera right by that window, facing down to where I park my bike. Either you're parking on this side or that side of the street. Either one, you're covered. And then the blink camera will send you alerts when people are congregating. Like a good clue is at 3 o'clock in the morning, if you're getting bleep 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 alerts, I think you can be pretty sure there's something going on. And almost every time, it's been like a van pulling up, trying to cut the chains and take the bike. Oh, and you need something to lock to. Like, for example, here, I would lock to that bike lock or that post over there, if you got lucky to get the spot. But anywhere you can get like a street sign too. This is too far from that window though. But I guess if you're living in that building, you'd lock to that. But that's just an example. But with the KLR, that's not always possible. Like, I could jam this bike in between the tightest of spots, but I can't always jam the KLR. Sometimes the KLR is just too beefy, and when you put the kickstand down, it's like leaning into someone's car, which is not very nice, you know. And you may come back and find your bike knocked over. But those are just some tips I can give you. If you don't have a setup where you can put a camera, I do agree with Kamikaze Joe. He said you can't park in the street, and I think he might be right. I mean, for me to give advice to riders saying new to the city or existing to the city, and you're just getting your first bike, or you're gonna have a bad experience. You know, you can't park a motorcycle in the street unless you have a security camera, because when your GPS alarm goes off, you can quickly check